Bellagio Biker bandit, the guy who made Vegas headlines for pulling a heist on one of the biggest casinos in Las Vegas. The Bellagio heist wasn't some sophisticated masterpiece. It was a reckless gamble fueled by pure stupidity. Our guy, Anthony Carlio, aka the Biker Bandit, is the definition of what bad decisions can lead to after winning big. From sending pictures of stolen casino chips to a stranger, to returning to the scene of the crime to blow some cash, this guy pulled off a $1.5 million heist against one of the most famous casinos in the world. And yet, his downfall was so gloriously idiotic, it's almost hilarious. This is the story of Anthony Carlio, the son of a Las Vegas judge, better known as the Biker Bandit. No glitz, no glamorous crew with nicknames, just one guy, a motorcycle helmet, and the most audacious gamble of his life. Anthony Carlio was raised in Colorado, and he helped manage a family bar and limo business while moonlighting as a DJ and dabbling in dealing weed, ecstasy, pain pills, and coke. His life took a darker turn when he invested heavily in rental properties, only to face financial ruin during the crisis. Forced to sell his own home and watch his investments slip into foreclosure, Carlio hit rock bottom. In 2009, he filed for bankruptcy and, in 2010, scraped together $30,000 to move to Las Vegas. His goal was to attend the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, with dreams of medical school. He bunked in a spare room at his father's house, who at the time was a respected municipal court judge, George Assad. Carlio's family were all very successful and hardworking, but Carlio was lazy and impatient. For a couple of semesters, he held it together, managing to keep up with his studies despite the distractions of Las Vegas. But loneliness quickly consumed Carlio in Las Vegas. To fill the void, he immersed himself in casinos. During a break from classes in late 2010, his life started to spiral. With too much free time, he dove headfirst into gambling. After losing half of his bankroll, he staked his last $12,000 on a high-stakes poker game at the Bellagio. Within hours, Carlio's fortune vanished. Desperate, he switched to blackjack, laying out every remaining dollar. Now the dealer took it all, leaving Carlio angry and ashamed. As he stumbled out of the casino, he felt the world spiraling downward. The next morning, Carlio sought redemption. He contacted his drug-dealing acquaintances, hoping to sell them some of his stashed-away Oxycontin. Now, a stripper he knew bought $800 worth from him, and Carlio raced back to the Bellagio. There, he squandered the cash on another poker game. Carlio, out of frustration, started contemplating robbing a European kid across the table who was flaunting $5,000 casino chips. His mind began to race. He knew if he could snatch that bag, perhaps the relentless pain of frustration would cease. He looked around the casino, and on every blackjack table were hundreds of thousands of dollars just sitting there. He contemplated, what if I just reach across the table and grab all of them? This scenario in his head, this imagination, festered in his brain. 2 nights later, Carlio received an invitation to a poker game at the Suncoast Casino, conveniently located near his residence. At this point, Carlio was broke and could no longer afford to participate in the Suncoast Casino games. Driven by a sense of desperation, he made a daring decision. He would rob the casino. The Suncoast Casino offered the ideal setup, proximity to the poker room cashier, and an entrance where he could discreetly park his getaway motorcycle. Swiftly executing his plan, he slipped in and out before security or police could respond. The $19,000 in cash he pocketed was significant, but even more valuable was the realization of how easily he could pull off such a heist on a casino. In that adrenaline-fueled moment, Carlio felt invincible, believing that everything was within his grasp. 5 days after his audacious Suncoast Casino robbery, Anthony Carlio set his sights on an even bigger prize, the Bellagio Hotel and Casino. On that fateful December 14, 2010, he arrived at the Bellagio around 4 a.m., armed with nothing but a gun and his motorcycle. He had no elaborate master plan, no crew, just Carlio. Parking his motorcycle near the valet stand, Carlio backed it into a discreet service path, ensuring its front tire faced away from the casino. He wore dark coveralls, rubber gloves, and a motorcycle helmet with the visor down. In his left pocket, he concealed a loaded gun, not for aggression, but as a last resort. Since his robbery 5 days earlier at the Suncoast Casino, where he pocketed $19,000, the adrenaline seemed to heighten his perceptions and clarify his thinking. He walked right past the security guard, straight inside the casino, moving past the banks of blinking and chirping slot machines. As he got closer to the table, he pulled out his gun, shouting at everybody to move. The dealers and players all hit the ground. On the table were millions of dollars worth of casino chips. Carlio wasted no time, stuffing as much as he could into his backpack. He initially planned on robbing the poker room and also robbed the Cartier shop, but in a split-second decision, he decided to call it a night and dash with what he'd stolen. He ran 200 yards back through the casino. As Carlio reached the heavy double-doored entrance of the casino, one of the valet attendants tried to block his escape. Carlio waved the pistol, and the man stumbled back. Carlio then quickly got on his bike and drove away. With $1.5 million worth of casino chips in his bag, he knew that he'd struck gold, or rather, chips. Because Carlio had stolen casino chips unique to the Bellagio Casino instead of cash, he was really only a millionaire inside the Bellagio Casino. And since he couldn't just walk back into the casino the next day after the robbery and redeem the $1.5 million worth of stolen casino chips at the casino's cashier, he decided that he'd have to redeem the chips little by little, over and over again. And just like that, Carlio was back the very first night after the robbery. Now, to his relief, he detected no sign of suspicions. Dealers, players, and security guards treated him like any other gambler. He started feeling a little too confident that his plan would work, so Carlio got seated at a high-stakes poker game and immediately started buying in with $100 bills he stole from his first heist at the Suncoast Casino. By that point in time, the story of the biker bandit was all over the news. As the games progressed, the biker bandit was all anyone at the table wanted to talk about. "You think that guy'll get away with it?" somebody asked. "The guy's crazy," said one of the dealers. "Of course he'll get caught." "Man, you kidding me? Dude's a fucking genius. I guarantee you he's long gone by now." It gave Carlio a thrill to be talked about while playing at the same table. Since the casino didn't bother tracking winners or losers, Carlio carefully slipped a few stolen $5,000 chips into his stack while the game was on, and by the end of the night, he had no trouble cashing out. But Carlio was too greedy to lay low. The casino management did eventually notice Carlio, but as a big baller, not as a suspected criminal. The Bellagio Casino assigned Carlio his own casino host and a $600 a night suite. Over the next several weeks, Carlio blew thousands of dollars on drugs and women. At this point, Carlio didn't care if he lost to the casino because it didn't matter. Win, lose, or draw. At the end of the night, he'd walk up to the cashier and redeem $20,000 to $30,000 worth of $5,000 casino chips. But Carlio stole more than $1 million of cranberry-colored $25,000 chips, which were easily redeemable for only the biggest gamblers who had gambled high enough stakes to have legitimately won so many big casino chips. Carlio knew that trying to redeem just a single cranberry chip would raise suspicions. On New Year's Eve, Carlio flew his old friend Alex up from Colorado for a visit. During the entire visit, Carlio's friend Alex watched Carlio blow over $100,000 at a blackjack table. Alex tried to get Carlio to leave the table, but Carlio just couldn't stop himself. The guy was in terrible shape due to the excess amount of drugs that he'd been taking. Sam Smith and Jason Nelson, the Las Vegas detectives assigned to the Bellagio case, fell into a rabbit hole of dead-end leads in their search for the biker bandit. A week after the Bellagio robbery, detectives crossed paths with a man named Leo, a poker dealer at the very Bellagio casino. Now, Leo claimed he knew the identity of the robber. According to Leo, in the days leading up to the heist, he had conversed with a poker player who had fallen on hard times. This player shared a peculiar fantasy about stealing casino chips. "Man, I'd like to just run over to that table and grab a bunch of those cranberries." Now, it seemed Carlio had forgotten his casual remark that he made to a poker dealer at the Bellagio. Leo, the poker dealer, told the detectives that a week after the Bellagio robbery, he encountered the same poker player again. This time, the player seemed to now have a lot of money, seeing as how he was playing games that he wasn't able to afford before. Leo's suspicions grew. He discreetly monitored the player, and the evidence mounted as Leo kept talking to other dealers and the cashiers to confirm his suspicion that the poker player was buying in with chips and not cash. Leo eventually told the detectives that the man's name was Anthony Carlio. With this new intel, one of the detectives, Detective Nelson, also found out that Carlio had a motorcycle's license. And even more crazy, Detective Nelson had found out that Carlio's dad was George Assad, a sitting Las Vegas municipal judge. On January 13th, they put a trace on Carlio's phone to log all of his incoming and outgoing calls. A week later, they pulled all Carlio's player records and found out that, in the 4 years leading up to the robbery, Carlio had lost a total of $2,900 at the casino, and since the robbery, he'd lost $105,000. But the detectives understood that knowing who did it and being able to prove who did it were two different things, especially since the suspect's father was a sitting judge. At this point, Carlio barely left the Bellagio except to pick up stolen chips that he had stashed around town. Now, just 2 weeks after his 2 heists, he was down to just a single $5,000 casino chip. Carlio still had over $1 million in $25,000 casino chips, but these were all but unusable. So Carlio started thinking of how he would redeem the $1 million worth of stolen $25,000 casino chips. Carlio decided to follow a thread someone had started on the poker forum 2plus2.com, where enthusiasts dissected the Bellagio heist and speculated on how the stolen casino chips could be redeemed. Carlio closely monitored the discussion on the 2plus2.com poker forum in hopes of finding a clever solution to redeem his stolen chips. Then, one day, Matthew Brooks, a poker player in Virginia, posted a question. How many of the worthless stolen $25,000 casino chips would you accept for a legit $5K chip? Carlio wasted no time. He bombarded Brooks with private messages proposing a trade: 4 $5,000 casino chips for 3 $25,000 chips. And if Brooks could handle more, Carlio was open to negotiation. Brooks, initially unsure of Carlio's seriousness, was dumbfounded. Why would the robber himself be on that forum? The Bellagio heist was too high profile for somebody to casually sell chips from a $1 million score on a poker platform. In one of their exchanges, Carlio shared a disposable cell phone number. Curiosity piqued, Brooks dialed it. During their call, Carlio spilled details about the robbery. Brooks demanded proof, and soon after, Carlio emailed him a photo: 2 $25,000 chips resting on a paper signed Biker Bandit. Brooks wasted no time. He forwarded the incriminating image to the Bellagio and the Las Vegas police. The IP address traced back to Carlio's father's house, Judge George Assad. This set the stage for a sting operation. A few days later, Carlio found himself at the Venetian, immersed in a high-stakes poker tournament with a $1,500 buy-in. As he prepared to step away, the stranger approached his table, a certain Dr. Kian Cave. Now, Dr. Cave introduced himself and told Carlio that he'd heard rumors that Carlio possessed $25,000 in casino chips for sale. Now, at this point, Carlio should have been suspicious, sensing that something was off, but he remained unsuspecting. Instead, he casually mentioned that he might know someone who could procure those coveted $25,000 chips. Dr. Cave proposed a meeting at the Venetian's race and sports book where he would bring a potential buyer. During the meeting, Dr. Cave introduced a man named Dominic to Carlio as the buyer. Carlio immediately liked Dominic. Dominic wasted no time, offering $10,000 in cash for a single stolen casino chip worth $25,000. Carlio hesitated, reminding Dominic that they'd just met and trust needed time to grow. Over the next few days, Carlio met with Dominic repeatedly. They played blackjack, exchanged texts about college football bets, and gradually built trust. Amid $1,000 dinners and meetings in Vegas strip club backrooms, Carlio and Dominic hashed out the intricate details of a deal involving Carlio's stolen casino chips. On January 30th, Dominic slid a wine list menu across the restaurant table to Carlio. Now inside the menu were $10,000 in cash and smaller denomination chips. Carlio swiftly pocketed the money and handed back a $25,000 casino chip to Dominic. In restaurants and casino backrooms around town, Carlio sold to his new best friend a total of $100,000 worth of stolen $25,000 casino chips over the next 2 days. On February 2nd, they met one last time in a Bellagio bathroom, not far from the poker room. Carlio handed over the remaining stolen $25,000 casino chip, but as Dominic accepted the chips without a word, Carlio sensed a shift in his demeanor. Carlio knew something had gone wrong. Before he could fully grasp the reality of his predicament, 6 Metro police officers burst through the bathroom door, yelling at Carlio to get on the floor. It turns out that Dominic, the buyer, was an undercover Las Vegas police officer, Mike Gennaro, and Dr. Cave, who introduced Dominic to Carlio, was Officer Mike's friend and also a casual poker player who agreed to help initiate the sting operation on Carlio as a favor. And all the money and chips Officer Mike Gennaro used to gamble with and buy Carlio's stolen casino chips were loaned to him by the Bellagio Casino itself. Carlio was arrested that night at the Bellagio Casino. Carlio pleaded guilty to the robberies of the Suncoast and the Bellagio Casino, and his father, George Assad, who was up for re-election as a municipal court judge, was voted off the bench. Carlio was eventually sentenced to 9 years in Nevada's Lovelock Correctional Center. Carlio later recalled, "I knew I should have thrown those $25,000 chips away, but I just couldn't throw away $1 million. At the end of the day, he didn't throw away money. He threw away something far more valuable and priceless: his time.